Hi guys, sorry for the late announcement. On the hour I shall be showing you all how to make a squirrel and a hedgehog. So see you in roughly almost 7 minutes. Okay, bye. Hi everyone, welcome to Carly's Creative Clay. I'm Carly. I hope you've all had a great week. My week's been very good. It's still hot here in the UK, so it's been very nice. Hi Fairy Hedgehog, it's lovely to see you. I'm going to start off by showing you some items that are in my Etsy shop at the moment. If you want to see my whole range, and there's like 200 things in there at the moment, it's in the top corner of the screen just there. If you want to type that either into your Google search or into Etsy, then you'll get me up. Right, first off is a trinket box of a dragon, and it does have its eyes open, but it's quite a dark eye. I've not backed it with foil. It was before I knew about that trick, but I'm really pleased with how I managed to get the creases in the dragon's wings for it being folded up. It's all curled up on itself. It's got a little crystal for a horn up there, tiny little gold nostrils, which I thought worked very well. That's the bottom. It's got no feet on this one, and inside is my usual swirled pattern with a inlay of a heart to help keep the lid on secure so it don't move around too much. So this little guy's in for £20. Then there is my tiny octopus bottles. So I got some little glass bottles, and here he is, tiny little octopus. They're £5. Got all their suckers on, which is a job and a half. When you saw me make octopus in one of my previous videos, if you are interested on how to make that, you can find it there. This is the yellow one, yellow orange, see? And I think I've got these two, and it's either a blue or a pink one left, and that's it, and they're £5 each. So next thing to show you is how my box turned out last week. Let's put these down here. I made up a cane to cover a box that had cherries in. It's been baked, it's been varnished, and that's what it looks like now, and that's the underside. So what I ended up doing was I had some distorted canes, but they all distorted in the same sort of way. They had that sort of black dip in the middle, so I was able to have quite a consistent veneer to it. Thank you. And the front I've stuck on some nice big old crystals, so this will sit with that to the front, and the clips at the back are going to hold a sign for the charms that I'm going to put in there when I sell, so people know what kind of price they are. And the bottom, I swirled some end bits of that cane, so you can still do other things with a finished cane. It's not, that's what I mean when I say to you that you shouldn't throw away distorted bits. There's always things you can do to them to make them usable. So yeah, that's that one done, and I have started the next one. So probably next week I'll show you another cane to go with this box. Now I'll tell you up front, when I laid this all in, it was all quite, there was a lot of concertinaed clay. It looked uneven and messy, and that's okay. You haven't ruined it. All I did was I used my thumb and pushed it all flat, and any sort of creased lines I just gently smudged them in so you couldn't see any of the lines, and you end up with it looking like this. So don't worry when you put your veneers onto the inside of a box that it doesn't lay completely flat. It's a problem when you put picture canes where you can't just smudge it onto itself, it will distort the image. But something like swirly clay like this, it absolutely works fine. Thank you. Welcome, Daft Brass. Lovely to see you. So I'll do the cane for the outside of this one next week, which is going to be in sort of peacock colours. Right. So this week we're making, quick sip of drink. We're going to be making a squirrel and a hedgehog. Hedgehogs are way easier to make than squirrels, but squirrels aren't difficult. So that's where we're going. Now I've already... Thank you. I'm doing good. This morning I woke up with the world's worst cramp in my calf muscle, but it's dissipated with a bit of stretching, so I'm doing alright now. I made up a nice dark green. They're my husband Jamie's favourite animal too. So you're in good company, and they are so much fun. I've got some of my own experiences I'm going to talk to you about to do with squirrels, because I used to volunteer at a wildlife rescue centre. But yeah, so I've done a nice dark green base, and I got one of the heart stones, and I've picked a yellow one because I think it stands out pretty good against the colours I'm going to use, and I've just pushed some clay onto the back and fiddled with it until I got a shape that I'm pleased with. And I've showed you in previous videos how to do that, but it really is just push it on, make sure that the edges are covered so that the stone don't fall out, and then just start shaping the back to how you wish. Other than that, I made up the colours for I'm going to use for the hedgehog and for the squirrel. So the hedgehog, I have this little lot. That's going to be its main body. Then I'm going to do its spikes in 3 different shades of brown. So we got the true brown, which is what Fimo comes in for its brown. For this, I got that much of its white, that much of its ochre, then actually I think there's even less brown in it than that. I think there's only about that much of its brown. So what I did was roughly even amounts of white and ochre, and then I put little pinches of brown in until I got to one that I'm happy with. So that's where that one went. This one's easy. All that's brown. That little bit at the end I mix black, and then you just mix it in until the colour changes. This one is a tiny pinch of brown mixed into white. Okay, so that's how you get there. But mixing colours, you will find that the more you do it, the more you get a feel for how much of different colours need to be added before you get any sort of proper colour change in your clay. But it's pretty easy to do. Now for the squirrel, I made up a swirl block, very sort of tight swirl on it. So I did 3 of my fold up and twists, and in here there is terracotta, Fimo FX copper, and then I did a brownie orange by literally mixing the true orange with small pinches of the brown until I got the shade that I wanted, because I'm going for a more red squirrel look. rather than the greys or the blacks, which you can get grey and black squirrels. I think black squirrels are Canada at the moment. They're not European yet. Greys are more aggressive than reds. Blacks are more aggressive than greys. So things will get interesting when we get the black squirrels. They look stunning, but they are known to be a bit on the angry side. Then I made up this. It looks like white, but it actually isn't. Here, look, I'll get my cotton buds. Can you see? It's got a very small pinch of brown in it. With all my lighting, it's not showing it up so well, but it is got a tiny, there we go, that's better. Tiny bit of brown in it, because using completely white clay for the squirrel tummy actually shows up a bit odd.
Hearty Life says, hello, got my new Wi-Fi up and running.
Yay, new Wi-Fi! My world would be terrible if I couldn't get online all the time. I spend so much of my life on there. You're not disabled when you're on the internet. You're just like everyone else, and it's brilliant. So, let's start off with the hardest bit and do the squirrel first. So let's get all my hedgehog colours out of the way. Now, I dug out little plastic squirrel model. Like I said, I keep little plastic models. You know, the children's toys? They can be bought relatively cheaply off of eBay. You can get some really expensive one with amazing detail to them, but I don't find that you need it. You're just looking for size, proportions and shapes, so the real basic ones will do absolutely fine. You can go on to Google Images and look up the animal you're doing or whatever you're making for ideas, and also proportion reference pictures. Right, so as you can see, you need a fair old whack for the towel. So let's take a chunk off like that. Then we need, I'd say half it, what's left. One half will be that main body, and this I'm going to take some off for the head and ears, because they've got quite a small head, and then divide that last bit into 4 for the legs. Now you don't want it to be an even 4, because the back legs are a lot bigger than the front paws. So bring your middle line up a bit like that. Can you see that's slightly less on the top than the bottom? And then you can put that to one side and divide that evenly down the middle, and you should have roughly even back and front legs then. So back legs, front legs, towel. So I'm working that way down the pole. So the towel's at the back, legs, front legs, head and ears, and I'm going to be on the body first, so put that to one side. Keep this little guy in view. So we need, first of all, quite a round teardrop shaped body, but the teardrop is going to go on its side that way instead of straight up. You see what I mean? So we're going to get this into a ball and turn it into a teardrop. Now if thank you. If you are making a bigger model, you might want to consider putting foil into a ball and then surrounding the clay around the foil for the body, because you need to make sure that all the clay cures all the way through to the centre. Why have I got bits of white on this? You wouldn't believe I wiped this board down just before we came on and I've still got bits of schmutz on it. There we go. Put that to one side. Right, turn this into a teardrop. Breaking my own rule there. Blade away from you. You don't want to catch your arm on it. Right. Now, I didn't spend a long time working at the Wildlife Rescue Centre, but the squirrels were one of my favourite animals there. They were so funny. They really were. We had a lot of babies in, and they would all sleep in a basket in a big cage, and one would get bored and you'd watch him and he'd just wake up, barely move, grab a bit of the one next to it and give it a bite, and mayhem would ensue. Everyone would wake up, everyone would kick off. It was madness. And once they finished having a go at each other, no one would get hurt. They're very hardy little animals. But I never knew a squirrel could scream, and they totally can. And it's yeah, it's fun and dramatic.
Life said it's a good rule to have your blade always away from you, and then there's always one, said the squirrels.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're all like it. They're very mischievous. They like to enjoy themselves. Can you see the raindrop shape? I've just bent over like that. So I've just encouraged it to have a bit of a belly and that sort of curve that's in that body. Yeah? You don't want it to go too over, or you're going to have a very stooped squirrel. That's kind of right. Like that. Right, let's... I've got some olive trees out the front of my house, and they're kicking off so much pollen at the moment. It's doing my throat in. Just pinching along the top side to give it a spine, because they are mammals, so we have spines. You don't want too sharp a line, just give it a little tap down just so that it looks like a little bump rather than a real point. So there we go, like that. Now let's do these back legs. So which are the two that are bigger? That would be these two. Now it doesn't look like enough clay, but it really is. I'll show you why. We're going to put these into balls once I've got this bit of fluff off. Even when you're trying to be really clean and you think you've done all the wiping down possible, you still got to not be complacent and keep your eyes open for fluff. It gets everywhere. But yeah, they would spend a bit of time in the actual main hospital when they were young, and you'd be feeding them little syringes of milk. It wasn't cow's milk, it was a special squirrel formula, and you got to sit there and watch them behave absolutely crazy. I'm just gonna bring a foot shape out, so it's like pinching out a raindrop, but you're gonna keep going and bring it out to quite a long way. But a squirrel's foot, if you can see, it's wider at the front and then goes back into a narrow ankle. So we need to make sure we leave the tip wide and then start working down here and squeeze along like that. I know that don't look right yet, but I'll show you. Once we've got some length on it, like that, bring that out to more of an, looks more like a chicken drumstick at the moment. That's what you're looking for. You want to bring that circle into more of an oval for the hip, that big top leg. What you're going to do then, get like this, and you're going to bend that up so it's got a 90-degree bend in it. Then you're going to pinch around so there's that ankle joint, and then flatten this all out. I don't know if you can hear, but my cat's yelling. Sorry guys, I think my husband's gonna go and see to her. There we go. Right, so you got that. Now when you put it on, I would suggest you make sure that it's standing the way you want, and you put it down on your board and put it on flat. When you put it on and it's not against the board, you can make sure, you can end up with the level being wrong. Once you made sure that it's where you want it, then you can start picking it up and working with it. And what you're going to do is you're going to encourage into the shape you want, which is quite flat against the side of the body, like that. There we go. Bring this out a bit more, like that. See? So fiddle, fiddle, fiddle. Now, first foot is always easier than the second foot, because you've got to make sure with the second foot that it's exactly the same looking as the first. I've got a flat bit on my tummy there, so I'm just going to bring that back to the shape I want. There we go. Sorry, my cat's yelling outside the door. Yeah, they'd spend a bit of time in the wildlife hospital, and then they would go to an outside cage so they could get used to the weather and get used to climbing around. And when they were in the outside cage, they were a nightmare. They really like to try and wind the staff up. They'll climb up the top of the cage and try and pee on you. They would throw things like their food at you and stuff. It weren't because they hate you, they just thought it was funny. It really was. I always loved the squirrels. They were little menaces, but had a lot of personality. Now, we don't get red squirrels all around the UK. There are sanctuaries. I know there's one specifically in Scotland. Right, now make sure again you're lining it all up. I know this isn't as obvious on camera, but you've got to get over the top, make sure it's at the right, it's not too far back or forward, and it's at the same level as the other one. You want to make sure that they mirror each other quite closely, because people will notice if it looks like your squirrel's got hip dysplasia. They really do. There we go. And like before, just give it a push. Right, we did get a lot of hedgehogs in, and we had to try and feed them. If they're very, very underweight, we would get syringes, not with the needle, just a syringe with hedgehog food, and have to put it in the corner of their mouth and very slowly put it into their mouth and make sure that they're eating it, because weirdly enough, a lot of animals will give up actually eating when they've got past a certain level of hunger. You'd think that at that point they'd be willing to scoffle everything, but we found we had to do quite a bit of syringe feeding, and once they got a bit better, then they'd eat on their own. But when they're really ill, they just don't. There we go. Right, 2 legs on. So you can see from the back they are pretty level. Let's bring that spine out a bit. It doesn't matter so much because the tail's going to come in, but they're pretty level at the back, and at the front the feet are the same length. Watch what you're doing when you're fiddling with the feet, because you can break along that joint. Can you see? Very easily. You can push it back on, but it does end up looking scruffy if you do. So we've got some back legs going there. The front ones are far easier. So let's put some front ones on, and then I'll do the tail, and then I'll do the head. So bring these out into balls. But yeah, the other thing we used to do is over winter we had some in that we would leave out in rabbit hutches and monitor their hibernation to make sure that they're okay. If hedgehogs are over a certain weight, then they're okay to go to sleep for the winter months. If they're under that weight, you've got to keep them inside and feed them up, because they don't have enough fat on them to go through hibernation. But there were some that were either had health conditions where the vet deemed that they were able to hibernate but needed monitoring. We had a few like that, or a few whose weight were near not good for hibernating but was good enough, so we would keep an eye on those. Yes, I didn't have much interaction with the hedgehogs. There was far more squirrel time. Right, I'm just bringing them out into the teardrop shape again, and we're gonna make that a lot longer because that's all the arm. So what we want is, can you see, it's very similar to that bottom with a bigger shoulder, but it's not as pronounced as around the legs. So we want a far smaller top bump and a lot more arm length. It's still right, so that looks about right to me. You're gonna put an elbow in, and then we're gonna come down to here and put some paws in like that, because they've got quite flat hands like that. There you go, that's an arm. So got to make a second one of those. Right, bit of good news that made me laugh and I thought was brilliant. A man in Utah found a 2-week-old golden finch, so very, very small young baby one. It needed to go into a rescue centre, but at the time of finding it, he was completely drunk and didn't think he was safe to drive. So his solution to this was to call an Uber and put the baby finch in the Uber and instructed them to deliver it to the local wildlife rescue centre. The rescue centre did say yes, it would have died had it not got that intervention, but it was the first time they've ever had an animal brought in by Uber. It's a good thought. I never thought of doing that, but yeah, it works. So yeah, I think if I was in that rehoming centre, I'd have to call it Uber the Finch. You got to give them names. Isn't that cute? There we go. Right, 2 arms that are looking pretty much the same. That's what you want. You want to be able to have your arms very much the same shape and size. So again, make sure that they are level, that you've got it laying where you want, the elbows down underneath, not out to the side unless you want it out to the side. Now what I'm going to do with this one is, because he's going to go there and the crystal's going to go there, I want an arm to be able to rest on the crystal. So what I'm doing is this one I'm putting on its side, and this one I'm going to put on at the very top bit. See? Like that. So this is going to go up, bring the hand over, because squirrels like to do that sort of beggy hand thing. So what do you think? Like that. Then you can get a pin tool if you're feeling like you want to put some serious detail in, and put in some fingers. Now this says, well, how many fingers? 2, 4. 4 and a thumb. I'm going to go like that. You just score in lines on the top for the fingers. And make sure you put the same number on each hand. I know that sounds like a stupid thing to tell you to do. I have done that before where it ain't right. And again on the feet. Now, some animals have more toes on their feet than they do on their hands. So if you want to get really accurate about it, make sure you Google check. I know guinea pigs is one where there's more. Is it more on the hands than on the feet? I'm not sure, but I know they're different. Right, I'm going to put him in place. Actually no, let's get a towel on him first. I am aware I pronounce animal towels like bath towels. It's a mix between my Cockney-ishness, which is a Cockney is someone who comes from the East End of London and has this kind of accent, and the fact that I'm dyslexic, so when I learned all this stuff it was a bit school if anyway. But yes,
you don't have toes on hands.
You have fingers. Yes. That I have no excuse for other than tiredness.
Them's fingers.
Yeah. But, yeah, guinea pigs have more fingers than toes. Which is weird. We always assume because we've got the same amount on each that everything does. Right, towel. Again, we're going for that teardrop. It's amazing how much you use a teardrop in clay. So, bit of an elongated top and quite a big bulbous ball at the top. You can use a rolling pin. I find just use your fingers does fine, and just pinch it so that it's thick but flat. Then you're gonna change the shape of it just a little so that it comes to a point up at the top. You can do that by rolling it, but I find it's harder to get that leaf shape. It can be quite variable, but yeah, so like this. Curve your sides just by pushing on the corners so that it's more rounded.
That's weird, you're right, I didn't take the info. It was all about the toes on hands thing.
Yeah, fair enough. So we've got quite an elongated leaf. Now you can get your pin tool and scratch in lots of poofy fur like they've done on this. I'm not going to, because I've still got all that marble effect on it. If you cameraman, can you zoom properly? Can you see it's still got a look of fur? So, but do feel free to texture. Now, can you see that towel does not start at the very anywhere up on that curve? it's right down at the very bottom by the feet. Yeah? Thank you. So you're going to need to, first off, the end that's going to attach to your squirrel, pinch it flat. Like that.
The other squirrel is...
This one is a plastic one that I got from a kid's toy shop. I'm using it to get all my references from. This is where we are with ours.
I think the arms on the one that's made
Do you reckon the arms are too long? What you can do is just push on them, and that shrinks the height. See? When you've decided you've got a mistake, it's this easy to change. Pushing back will shrink it all down and give you more of a muscular forearm. There we go, like that. Bring the hands over. That better?
Artificial says he's from Planetary Squirrels. Meaning he's got strong arms.
Yeah. There we go. What do you reckon to that? Short enough arm? Yeah. Right, tail. So we pinched at the bottom and we're literally going to tuck that right underneath. Can you see? Under its butt. Right under on the underneath bit. And then you curve that. Use your finger and your thumb to put an S curve there. And then roll that tip. Like that. You can shape it all up. There you go. Like that. Just by adding that, it's gone from a gorilla look to squirrel already. It does make a big old difference. Right, drop a drink. Right. You don't have to use a bit of florist wire to keep the head on, but I always do. You can also use a wooden cocktail stick. But I got me a big old set of mixed size florist wire. And it's lasted me years. It's pretty cheap stuff. Remember, the bigger the number, the smaller, the thinner the wire. So you're looking for kind of low numbers for thick stuff. Right, let's use my little pair because my big pair just want to pull the wire out. That's the curling ones. Where's it? There we are. That's what I'm looking for. Little pair of wire cutters. Like that. So there's about centimetre or so of wire just going down into the neck to about there and sticking out the top. So when you make a head, it doesn't just fall off.
Hedgehog says, do you know what number wire you use?
The problem with this is I'm numerically dyslexic, so my brain actually does not store numbers. So if you'll notice, I will use coins on my Etsy shop to give size comparisons, and I try and make visual size comparisons because my brain really does not want to ever give me a number. It's unfortunate. I could find out for you and get it written up and make sure that next week I go into wire thicknesses, but I can't answer that this week. So right, I've taken a bit off. That's going to be for its ears and its eyelids. So the rest of this is all going to be head. So into a ball, And we're going back into a teardrop shape. Now it's not got much forehead, it's quite so you don't need to make one side of your teardrop sort of wide higher than the other like you would with animals that's got quite a prominent forehead.
Hearty Life says, I reckon it's thicker than pear but thinner than spaghetti.
Yes, it's all thinner than wire coat hangers, I can tell you that much. Right, it's not got a long nose, it's quite short, it angles downwards so that gets pushed down, and it's got quite a prominent, let's bring this up, like a ridge to a nose bridge, so you don't want much to the muzzle size. You don't want to bring it out to a complete point because it has those sort of lip balls. So that's what you're aiming for. Yeah? Now, before we put any more details in, we're going to put some eyes in. You can either just stick balls of black clay just as dots if you don't want to go into eye detail. I am going to use some little black beads I've got. Let's check eye size. Quite a lot of eye to head ratio there, so I use my bigger ones, and you've got to make sure you get them quite high up on the forehead but to the side. I'm just going to push them in like that. Now making sure that you've got the same, that they're both properly opposite each other. Now the reason why I do this now is because it's easy for when you're placing your eye for it to misshape the head, so you're able to now actually smudge it around and get it back into shape without messing up all the detail. So we do the detail last. So I've got that in, but it looks very wide-eyed because it's got no eyelids to it, see? So what we're going to do is take off a really small thin sliver from that bit we put to one side for ears, like that, and then I diagonal cut from one side to the other because you want something kind of triangle shape. If it's too long for what you need, you can always push back on it and smudge it, but you're trying to aim for that shape. You see, that is a top eyelid, 2 of those. So got my triangle shape, gonna get the bit that's too long and just push on it and bring it back shorter, pat down that corner and bring it into the middle. There we go. That's the same thing again. Make sure that you've used your fingers to pinch it quite flat, because you don't have a very thick eyelid unless you've been hit a lot. So 2 thin eyelids. The bottom eyelid is even easier. You need even less clay. It's really thin, small little bit, and that you're going to cut just in half horizontally, so you're left with 2 long strips. You're going to turn those into sausages just by rolling it either on your board or between your fingers, like that. And you're going to make sure that you've tapered the ends to a point. Now let's get this head, put it on first. So I'm going to go like this because I want the head to be pointing up a bit, like that. Now we're going to do the eyelids. So bottom eyelid first, you start in the corner nearest to the nose. You just pat it in to shape underneath, and if it's too long, just use a needle or a craft knife just to take off that end like that. I find that far easier than measuring. Same the other side. So your long thin sausage goes from the front nearest the nose up around to there. Take off the excess. Then we're on the top eyelid. You're going to put it central, just slightly overlapping the bead. Bring it down at the corner. Now that looks very, very slitty eyed, so we are going to adjust where that top eyelid is in a second, but I'm going to put the second one on just like I did the first. So again, very slitty eyed, it looks sleepy. So we're going to need our little ball tools. I'm going to get a couple of different sizes because I won't know what I need until I'm on it. But can you see each of these tools have got a tiny little ball on the end? They are a really, really useful set. I use them all the time. And what we're going to do with that, now do make sure that you're not smudging the feet into the wrong shape whilst we're focusing on the head. Always be aware of the whole model and not just the bit you're working on. We're going to take a ball tool and we're going to just secure the top line of that eyelid, bring it down to a size that we want, and blend in the line like that. Once it's on securely, you can then get your needle tool, just go up underneath and change it to the shape you want, how you want it. Just bring that over into there, see, like that, and put a few happy creases in the eyes. Now that is, it leaves kind of a ridge, so you just need to just smooth that out with your thumb. But that's a finished eye to me. So we now just got to do this one. You can see the difference that it makes just by having that ball tool. Just quick smudge along the top line, bringing it to the shape you want. As long as you don't make the eye completely sharp, you should be able to readjust it with a needle tool. And because you're doing that, that's why it's easiest to work with either a pre-baked ball of clay or a glass bead, because if you used raw clay, it would just stick to it, which is not what you want. There we go, and let's bring out that join line a bit just by giving it a nice little tap. Right, we now have some eyes on our squirrel. They are, yep, push that one just forward a bit, there we go, level, there we go. Right, so we're on to a nose. Now there's two ways you can do that little cleft palette that they have. If you go onto eBay, you will find they have dentistry tools, and where's the one I'm looking for? So you get your tools all ready before you show, and then you can't find the one that you're looking for. Typical. Sorry about this. I thought I got it out. Nope. Right, I'm going to have to do it with a pin tool. Ah, here it is. Right, you can get these curved metal hooks. You know, the ones that we all fear, where they gouge the hell out of your gum line. And you're meant to be like, oh yeah, that's fine. It's cleaning. You're like, it's not cleaning, it's torture. So, you can buy them off of eBay. Or you can sweet talk your dentist. Some of them have been known to be nice and give a set, but it's by no means certain. And but they're really cheap online. You're going to put, can you see, just mark out a little curvy mouth like that. Now I find that's too thick for the actual finished result, so I'd always go over to a pin tool and come back in with that. But it just helps you get the curve that you want. There we go. Have a fiddle with it when you're happy. There we are. Little curved mouth. If you've made the line too thick, just pinch it back together and it will be thinner and get rid of any mess like that. So all we need now are some ears, and I didn't do a tummy on him, did I? Let's put a tummy on him. I knew I forgot something. Right, see, even when you forget these things, you can add them in at the end. So we're going to do a round tummy like that. So I'm pinching the clay out into the shape that I want. That will fit. Oop, like that. Make sure you get your arm out the way and put that going up under his chin like that. Now when you put on the lighter colour, make sure that you've pushed it down properly but you've not trapped any air bubbles. And if you do like what I did and forget to put it on when you're making the body, you can always just add it on at the end like this. See, it looks like it was there all along, and it looks quite white, but trust me, if that was proper white, it looks very odd. So we're at that stage, so we're going to do ears now. So the last bit of clay I'm dividing into half. I'm going to bring them into a ball shape to make sure that they're the same size. That's got a bit too much on it. There we go. Two little balls like that, and you get these bits of excess out the way. We're going to bring them again into a teardrop like that. Two of those. We're going to push them just slightly flat, so we've got a flat surface to them. Make sure they stay roughly the same size. Then we're going to get some of the accenting clay. We're going to make an even smaller little teardrop, because that one needs to sit in the middle like that. It doesn't matter about how much it overlaps the bottom. The important bit is that you've got that edge around it. When you look at it straight on, there is the backing colour in a little edge. Right, On the home stretch of the squirrel and the hedgehog really is a lot quicker. So, any tool like this,
Hedgehog says so small and fiddly.
you want something that's got a point on it, and you're just going to push it in the middle and bring the sides up. So then you've got that ear shape with a different colour through the centre. Like that. See? So, like this. Push. And there are a lot of tools with a triangular shape. It works well with your rubber headed blending tool, that fits in perfectly fine. You can get your craft knife, that fits in fine. Whoop, laid down. And then you'll find various sculpting tools that have got sort of triangular heads to them.
Better result with the one that you did is because it's curved.
I get
So
quite good results with lots of them, so it's not so important which one. You just need something triangular. Right, now we're going to make sure you've got a gap between the ears, so you don't want them completely touching. And if you can see, the ears, the outside, they're not facing forwards, they're facing out to the side there. See? So don't put them on like you would rabbit ears. Doing that, you want that. And you're just going to push the bottom.
once you put them on, can you show
I will show you up to the camera as soon as I put them on. Make sure you're not smushing your eye. So be very, very careful with the rest of your face that you're putting these on all right. And they curve outwards and then back inwards. Oops, you're not stuck down properly. There you go. So, can you see like that? Yeah? Make sure they're pushed on properly and that you haven't smudged the neck down too much. Everything's in the shape you want and you've got yourself a squirrel. So, he's ready. I'm going to put him on like that and then get the crystal, put that on like that. Do this. Do that. And push them on firmly.
So good, Carly.
Thank you. As soon as I get him baked and varnished, he'll be in my shop. Like everything else, well, other than those boxes, because those boxes are a display stand. Right. There we go. Nice big old squirrel. So, let's see if I can take a whole lot less time on a hedgehog. We need enough for 4 feet and the rest is body. There we go. Right, big old teardrop. Like that. Now I know you can get hedgehogs as pets. Oh yes, I'm doing your namesake, aren't I, Fairy Hedgehog? They can be kept as pets. They are not the easiest pet ever. They can be quite highly strung, is a nice way to put it. And wild hedgehogs are even more grumpy than that. But the pet ones, they are still known to be really, really grumpy. And it's not that they're scared. I saw a video of this guy, his little girl Hedgehog was quill rattling and making all the snuffling noises, and he said, "Do you know what she's doing that at?" And he put the camera slightly sideways, and it was her mum, her actual mum. So she's not terrified of it, she's just being a brat.
Hearty Life says, "Oh, so cute, and the heart is the perfect colour."
Thank you.
Big cricket question.
So we got that teardrop shape. Now we're going to divide up our browns. Actually, let's put an eye in first. So again, I've got some smaller black beads. I'm going to push in an eye to the side, making sure that you can't see the actual holes in the beads. These ones have quite flat eyes at either side. There we go. Right, once I've got these in, I'll show you. There we go. It's 2 little black beads in. And again, we can do a top eyelid and bottom eyelid. Taking very, very thin sliver from the leg pile, and you're going for 2 small triangles and 2 long sticks. Let's swoop. Go like this. Now, do hedgehogs have ears? I think you can get pygmy ones that have big ears, but the wild British ones. Will you do a quick search for me? Thank you. Hubby's gonna do that. My mind is just gone blank about it. There we go. Because if they do, it's a good thing to know when we put the face together. They have very, very, very small little ears. So, are you able to show that picture? We're going for a lot more paler one than the one that he's found. Sorry, I'm asking all the admin help. I should have got this ready beforehand. Go, little top eyelid and little bottom eyelid.
Yes, they have ears. Just check them.
They do, yeah. Right, because I'm working with a smaller face, I'm using a smaller ball tool. Bigger than that one. I will show you what I've ended up with as soon as I've got it looking a little more presentable than this, because it looks really scruffy right now. But it's exactly the same thing I'm doing as with the other one, smoothing in the top eyelid, making sure that it's laying correctly. There we go. What do you think? With a little eyelid on. So let's quickly do that on this side. Bottom eyelid from the corner to the outside. Whoops. Didn't break off. It took the rest of the clay off. There we go. Broken off. So that's that. Smooth it in. You don't even need to do this with the eyelids if you don't want to get that accurate with your clay. You can literally just do a black dot. It's where I'm being over the top just to show you that an eyelid makes a difference. Apparently we got a picture of a hedgehog ready to show you all. So this is Hedgehog showing you that there is some ears. See, they got little ears, they got little black eyes. The one we're going for, they do come in lighter colour schemes than that, but he's a very good representation of a hedgehog for you all, because I haven't got a model. There are still a few animals that I've not... Yes, there's still a few animals I've not got models for, unfortunately. And hedgehog is one of them. There we go. Right, we've got two little eyes on our teardrop now. So that is probably the longest bit of work for it all. Right, we're going to cut our browns. So put them next to each other and take a few slices. Whoop, like this. Like that. That's a good start. Now we are going to break off bits of this so that we can make little spikes. So this one I'm going to take probably into 3 or 4 like that. It's easy, you can chop them up with your blade if you want, but I just find pinching means that I get an idea, a better idea of what size I'm going for. They do not have to be uniform size. That's probably enough for that one, because if you look, a hedgehog spikes are not uniform size, so you really don't need to spend a lot of time measuring this. Just so long as you've got some little bits of clay ready to roll into balls and turn into spikes. There we go. I'll put that to one side. If I run out of clay, I'm just got a slice ready then. So quick, like this. Now we do the spikes before we do the feet, because if you put the feet on now, you can end up with them not showing under the spike length, so they can go missing. Oops, bit of brown on that. Right, so roll them into rough balls like that. They don't have to be perfect, just roughly round, and then bring that ball up into a point with a flat base, so you've got like an ice cream cone. Yep. And you start at the up by the face on the flat side. We're going to go, I'm losing my words here, aren't I? Right, we're going to go around the very bottom of the hedgehog and then work our way up to the top middle. And I'm using different colours of brown, and I'm going to alternate them in that pattern. So light, medium, then dark. I have done it where I've made them with like 8 different shades of brown, and they do look pretty cool, but just a couple of different ones really does suffice. You don't need to go crazy. You can if you want, so that's a good thing with it all. Right, around we go. So see how effective it is just using different colours. If you use just one, it'll still look like a hedgehog, but it just brings an extra element of fun and dimension to your work. But the reason why I don't go over it in straight lines across the top like that is because you can end up with ones really too far underneath the hedgehog, so the legs have them in the way. Whoops, you're meant to be a dark. Take you off. So I find it better to go around the base and then work up towards the middle. then that light I just rolled out. There we go. Right. I discovered something recently that I thought I'd tell you all. Co-op are now doing yellow watermelon. Can you see? It's actually really nice. I'd never heard of it before, and I tried it. It tastes slightly sweeter than normal watermelon, but slightly honey flavoured, and I really like it. I'm definitely been going through several packs so far this week, but I can't seem to find anywhere that sells a whole yellow watermelon, only those packs with 2 slices in, which is a bit of a shame. But I thought I'd let you all know that that's an actual thing, and it's really worth a try. It's not just exactly the same tasting thing, that's just a different colour. It's got a different taste. Do Tesco's do the whole thing? 'Cause I get my Tesco's order offline and they don't.
We saw one there the other day.
Really? That's so. I'm gonna need to pop out to a Tesco's then. That means going out the house. Well, if you see them, I advise you get one. It's worth a go. So, I'm now going.
I imagine it's a cross with a honeydew.
Yeah, there's a few interesting ones. There's a new one in that's called a snowball melon that I'd never heard of, and that has almost no rind. It tastes a lot like a honeydew, but the rind's about 2mm thick. All the rest of it is melon flesh, other than the seeds in the middle. But that was a really weird thing. It's very, very light coloured, very sweet and juicy. So again, it's worth a try on some of these new melons that seem to be hitting the stores. I don't know why it's just melons that they're doing new flavours on, but they seem to be. So give it all a go anyway. I have been eating more fruit than a fruit bat at the moment because I'm trying to lose weight, and weirdly enough I find when I eat a fair bit of fruit and next to nothing on the carbs side, so no bread, no pasta, no rice, no potatoes, none of that, it's just at the moment I'm on fruit, veg, low fat meat, fish and a bit of dairy.
Maybe it was a snowball that we saw.
It's possible. I don't know. The snowballs are they're a very pale green, whereas the yellow watermelons, if you see, they're exactly the same colour as a normal watermelon slices for the outside, so I don't think you'd be able to tell a difference looking at them. But yeah, it's a harsh little diet I'm on, but I've lost over a stone so far and it seems to be working out well for me. But I'm getting all which I usually have a very sweet tooth, and I'm having to turn to fruit for it. So weirdly enough, cutting out chocolate and processed sweets has left me far better able to taste fruit. I'm noticing the difference in different types of black grapes, which it all tasted like grape to me before. Now I can sort of, that's a different subtype to this one that I usually get. So I've become a bit of a fruit connoisseur, which if you'd have told me that would be a side effect of this diet, I would not have guessed it. By the way, there is one other thing we've got to do to that squirrel before we finish, and that's put a little black nose on it. But the reason why I haven't yet is because I don't want to handle black until the very end.
Life says, then it was a snowball.
It's worth getting the snowball ones. I've got one of them downstairs. They're really lovely. They're very, very sweet. Huge amount of juice in them. But I find with a lot of melons, you've got a lot of rind left over. I have read somewhere that you can turn watermelon rind into jam by boiling it in sugar. But other than that, the only other thing really that I know to do with melon rind is give it to my guinea pigs, who, by the way, believe that it's an absolute disgusting thing that I eat fruit and don't give it all to them. Apparently any fruit that goes into my bedroom, because they're in a huge cage in my bedroom, that should be theirs by rights. Doesn't matter the fact that I actually disagree with that assessment. But I've got the most crotchety little boy. In guinea pigs, when they chatter their teeth, that's meant to be a sign that they're at their most angriest and are about to fly off the handle and attack something, either a cage mate or you, but blood's about to fly. Well, my boy Dal, he does it at least 3 times a day, probably more. He does it over absolutely nothing, and there is no anger at all. His brother, the cage mate, literally ignores him. Half the time will go and snuggle with him whilst he's teeth chattering, and still nothing. He is a very, very odd little mal. He reminds me of, you know, sometimes you get those blokes who are really, really leery in an argument, threatening all sorts of things, but if you actually say let's go, they run a mile. I don't condone violence, but he reminds me of that. It just makes me laugh. I've never met a guinea pig like it. When we had him the first day, we freaked out. We thought he was truly upset, because it's meant to be such a big deal when they teeth chatter. We've had a lot of guinea pigs in our time, and we've heard it once or twice, maybe, maximum, when they're very ill or very upset about something.
It's guinea pig Tourette's.
I know, right? I don't understand, because the thing is, we do a rule in my household. It's a lot safer to neuter males than it is to spay females. It's a far less invasive thing. So when we get boys, we get them neutered at a young age when it's safest for them. And whoever outlives the other one, because you should never have a guinea pig on their own, but you try and introduce a new male to an old male. It can work, but it's usually higher problems. If you've neutered them, you can then give the remaining guinea pig girlfriends, which A, makes them immensely happy, and B, I find that it tends to give them a new lease of life. But you can't introduce girls when you've got more than one boy, because they really will kick off, because how they live in the world is a group of females to one male. So as soon as females come in the picture, they then fight for the rights over them. So we're worried if Dal ends up being the one that gets girlfriends. I've seen female guinea pigs. They do politics. The boys are really, everything's black and white. We're happy, we're fed, we're angry, we're sad. It's really, really, you can tell what's wrong and why it's wrong most of the time. With girls, they're plotting. They do mind games. They will rub against them and purr and then headbutt them. It's like, okay, all sorts of things like that. And I think if he gets a girlfriend day one, if he starts teeth chattering at her, she's gonna school him. It won't be the girls that will be at risk, it'll be him. So where his brother is like, yeah, I don't care, it's fine, I'm like, no, can you please disagree with this behaviour? Because we can't. We're too big to challenge him on it. We speak sort of deep voice, no doubt that's bad. Don't give him anything that he wants. And till he stops. But we can't disagree the way a guinea pig could. And his brother just goes, yes, fine. Which, it's not fine. If he gets girlfriends, he's just going to have... it's going to be interesting in my bedroom for a while, put it that way. So, we'll see. We'll have to see. They're both young. They're both fighting fit. And just as I finished that, we have the spikes done. See? I've just gone round and I've filled it all in. So now we're going to go for some legs. So we're going to divide that into 4. And we need a couple of little ears. So let's take a little bit off for an ear. But, yeah. There we go. Into 4. Like that. These go into teardrops. So, balls first into teardrops. Like that. And what you're going to do is, let's quickly do that with all the other 3. Little bit flattened out. Now, it's an aesthetics decision that you're going to have to make yourself here. You can put your hedgehog onto the feet so you've got the larger bit of the teardrop sticking out, or you can do it that way and have little thin legs. So let's come up closer. Either like that and have a fatter leg sticking out, or the other way around and have a more pointy leg. So personally, I like to just slightly thin it out and have the wider part as the bit of foot that's showing. So 4 of those. Like that. There we go. Right. So. Whoop. Don't bend your spine over, Carly. There we go. We're handling everything up the front here. Gonna do one side first. So, like that. Push that down. You can put them on if you're not confident about pushing down between the spikes. But I've done so many hedgehogs, I've found I can do it fine. There's too much leg going on here. Let's take some off. Because it's on the underside, it doesn't matter if it's scruffy because you're not going to see it. Like that. Let's take some off this. There we go. Home stretch. Right. Then put the next one diagonally out like that. So you've got some little legs poking out. And I've flattened down some spikes. So I'm just needing to re-spike those up because I'm rushing. There we go. Like that. And I'm going to put him like that. Just push him down, make sure he's on firm. That I've got all the spikes where I want them. Everything looking how I want. Then once I'm happy with him, I'm going to get my bit of black clay, put 2 noses for each of them. You can also put a little round mouth like this. Let's bring it up on its side. Just putting the mouth in on my hedgehog. There we are. Flatten that back down. There we go. Right. Now put a little bull nose on the top like that. There we go. That's the hedgehog. In and done. All we need to do now is a nose for the squirrel, which is not a ball nose, it's a teardrop nose. Remember, the round bit goes towards the top and the point goes down towards the bottom. I have put noses on upside down. Just give it a fiddle so it's in the right shape. Right, here we go. We have squirrel and a hedgehog completed. So I hope you guys have found this helpful and you're able to go and make your own squirrels and hedgehogs. I'd love to see anyone's end result if you make the same thing. If you have any questions, you're always welcome to message me. Like and follow. I do this every single Wednesday, so next week I'm going to be doing another cane. I hope you all have a really great week, and thank you for joining me and keeping me company. Alright, speak to you soon. Bye.